All right. Hey there, folks. Even with conventions, readings, and other author type events back in action, I figured I'd keep bringing book tour to you. So welcome to Russ's Rockin' Rollercoaster, season 10, intriguing interviews with creative minds. From the Lone Ranger to Bruce Lee, John McClane, and so many others, boy, do we love our action heroes. And one of the most compelling to explode on the screen in years is what brings us here tonight, which leads us to the question, is the action hero back? And the answer is, of course, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back, which is why we'll be spending the next hour deconstructing John Wick. And who better to help us out than my pal, namer of new bands and avid Wickian, Dayton Ward. Dayton is a New York Times bestselling author or co-author of nearly 40 novels and novellas, including his ongoing contributions to the Star Trek universe. Welcome back, Dayton.
Hey, Russ, how you doing?
All right, buddy. Good to see you. Okay, also on our panel tonight is Anna Rose. Anna's the author of Urban Fantasy and Young Adult Fantasy. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much, Russ. Thanks for having me here tonight.
All righty. And rounding out our panel is my pal and fellow troublemaker, Brian Koschinski. Brian is the co-author of several pulp novels, collaborating with Chris Pisano and Jeff Young to form the Novel Guys. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Russ. Thanks for having me.
Hey, pal. Always great to see you. All right, just a heads up to the folks at home. Feel free to send me notes or questions for the panel in the chat box during the show, and we'll get to a few at the end. All right, so the John Wick franchise really just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere, and now we just can't get enough. Yet for a franchise that's built on the surface around a very long revenge play, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. And yet, despite the various players and elements, which we'll definitely get into, none of this works without Keanu Reeves carrying the day. Now, when he first came onto the scene back in the late 80s, early 90s, I doubt very much that anyone saw him as a future action star. And yet now his place in action star history is firmly cemented. So my question for you guys is, what is it, do you think, what is it about Keanu Reeves that he brings to the table that helps set him apart? Anna, so let's hear from you.
It's interesting because having seen him, all the different things that he's done, Bill and Ted and oh good Lord, Parenthood and all that kind of stuff, you wouldn't have expected him to, I don't know, mature to the actor he's become at this point. And John Wick, it's interesting, but the character, I mean, this is a guy, obviously, he's been doing this for so long and he's tired of it. He doesn't want to have to do this anymore. And so Keanu kind of, in a way, he kind of brings some of that world weary, oh my God, where am I going to go with this now kind of feeling to it. And it makes it, to me, it makes it more interesting. You know, when you finally had enough and you've got to kind of put your foot down and say, I've had it, no more.
Brian, what about you? You know, so, I mean, you know, back when, you know, he was, you know, Keanu started off as like the whoa dude kind of guy, and now he's breaking bones and kicking ass. You know, what is it about Keanu Reeves in particular? Because not, you know, you could have had another actor theoretically who could have been John Wick, and none of this would have worked or wouldn't have worked as well. What do you think in particular that he brings to the role into this universe that really helps it fly?
I think, like you just said, that most of us first were introduced to him through Bill and Ted. So we all kind of had low expectations as to where he was going to go with his movie career. Then he did, Point Break and Speed. So he started to dip his feet into the whole action genre, but he did it as more of like the everyman, put in a regular guy kind of put into a bad situation. So we all can kind of empathize with that. So then when he takes the next steps and he's going to Constantine and Matrix, now he's bringing us with him now. He's taking us on this action journey throughout his career, and then finally culminating now as John Wick. So I think his affability to start, and then, you know, just that everyman aspect to him that we all have grown to love.
Dayton, what about you? I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. What kind of, you know, like I said, you could have taken another actor, and there's plenty of good ones out there. There are plenty of guys who can do stunts and can fight, but he kind of brings a lot of stuff into this role with saying very little. But what is it to think about Keanu Reeves in particular that elevates John Wick to the degree that we're so into it?
I mean, I think it, to begin with, I don't think, even if it was a different actor, it would have had to have been somebody who was older, who'd been in, an older actor, established in their career, no matter how successful they had been. I mean, even Keanu Reeves from The Matrix isn't the right age or temperament to be a guy like John Wick, who's been in this life for decades and he's just world weary and tired of it and he wants to get out, but yet beneath the surface is this animal that's just ready to get let loose at the, when the right provocation comes along. I think that's what he brings to it. He's very, if you've ever seen him interviewed, Keanu Reeves is a very low energy, even keeled, sort of Zen-like dude in real life. And you're like, how does this guy bust out of that shell to start throwing down? And, so I suspect that leads into the type of role that John, an assassin would be, is somebody who's in control of their emotions, someone who's in control of their temper, who can compartmentalize emotions and then, but yet when provoked can bring it. I think Keanu Reeves does a great job of selling us on both sides of the John Wick coin, so to speak.
You're right. You're right, though, in the fact that I think, I agree in the sense that, he needed to be older. Like, Keanu, The Matrix, Keanu Reeves was too young, not experienced enough probably to carry this role. And, he's it's incredible. He's pushing 60, which is kind of unbelievable. And he looks like he could go forever, but the fact that he kind of carries, you sort of, especially to me, it feels like as the movies go on, with each movie, which makes sense considering what he's actually going through in a pretty short amount of time, he carries all of that with him. And you just almost feel like it's compressing on him. And the more it compresses, it's more like you can see the rage kind of simmering underneath that genteel exterior. So speaking of the action, so the physicality of these action sequences in the movies are just absolutely incredible. So talk to me a little bit about the visceral impact that these movies have and how, or if, they've changed our expectations of what's possible on screen. In short, have these movies elevated the standard of action sequences? And so Dayton, let's stick with you.
I think you're right. They have. You've started to see the influence of the first couple of John Wick movies in other franchises. The last James Bond movie with Daniel Craig.
Yes.
When he's going through the enemy stronghold, a lot of those sequences were choreographed in a very John Wick manner, as far as I could tell. And if you think about it, I assume we've all seen the latest one, right?
Oh yeah.
So no spoilers.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about spoiling anybody. So like the sequence where he's going through the house and it's shot from above, like you're looking, that is ridiculous. I don't know how long it took them to figure out that scene and choreograph. Choreography is the right word, because it is literally a dance.
Right.
And, it's amazing how almost simplistic the first movie is compared to this new installment in terms of the action choreography. And the first movie is nothing to sneeze at. It's a great film, very compact, but it just seems like they keep finding ways to elevate that action with each new installment. What we did last time is just a starting point. Now we're going to kick it up a notch.
Right.
So
right.
I think, yes, it's definitely had an influence.
What about
I don't think I'd.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I didn't think I'd ever seen anything like that. That whole overhead house shot, that was just so amazing, and just it grabs you, and you watch everything going on. And honestly, I would love to see some way for that to be nominated. I don't know how you would nominate that for an Oscar, but I've never seen anything like it before. Now I'm sure everybody's going to do it from now on, but wow, just wow, it was breathtaking.
So, one of the scenes that, however you absorb it, that bit towards the end, when he's on the stairs, right? He's just, if you think about it unto itself, right? You're just trying to walk up a couple of flights of stairs, but holy God, that was like trying to go across trying to get, march across a desert would be easier than going up, 100 steps. Good Lord. And the thing is, for me, it's that that close in space, right? It's easier to go 1,000 miles than that last 100 feet, right? It's just like that gauntlet was just, and every time he goes up and he goes and he falls back down, he gets back up and he gets knocked back down. You're like, oh, for good God, come on, brother, like help me out here. Brian, what about you? So what, you've obviously you've watched, like,
Oh, absolutely.
you've seen, all the action stuff. What was it like for you, and how or if do you see the impact or the influence of the action sequences as its impact on other filmmaking?
Well, I definitely agree with Dayton. There is some amazing choreography there that you can see even from the first movie on being influenced into other shows and movies. But the one thing that kind of sticks out with me is, even though there is absolutely some overblown scenes and some gratuitous action to it that certainly plays with the laws of physics and biology, but I noticed, especially in the first movie, there was a hint more realism to the way things were done. An example, in the first movie, there's the car falls off the ledge and it hits the ground, and that's it. It hits the ground. There's no massive explosion. There's no parts flying everywhere. And even when people are getting shot, there's no 16 feet worth of blood being spewed from their heads. It's all a little more refrained, a little more kind of set in the real world. So I think what the movies are showing us is you can still have some amazing jaw-dropping action without all the superfluousness to it that other movies include.
I was watching, what was it? Lord. It was, what was the one? I think it was, I want to say it was The Accountant, I think, with Ben Affleck. I don't know if you saw that one.
I haven't seen that one.
It's the action's great. The movie's not bad. It has promise, but and I'm in that and others where, one of the scenes, I don't know if you've watched any of them, any of the videos where Keanu Reeves does intense training to prepare for these movies, right? And a lot of the physicality is, it's very close in. There's a lot of like sort of like a jujitsu kind of mixed in there, a lot of rolling around, but also, even the way and Dayton, you were in the, in the service, so you have probably more experience with weapons than the rest of us. But even the way he holds the weapons, right? Mostly you see in TV movies, right? They're kind of like out like this, but a lot of with him, it's right. It's very close in, right? Gun tucked close to the chest, single shots rather than kind of just like, blam, 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 blam. Like it's like each shot from the gun is surgical, right? There's like no waste with the shots, and even the physicality. It's very every movement has a purpose rather than just kind of being where certain other action sequences in other movies, which I love just as much, is more like chucking people against walls and kind of more just like huge muscle bound brutality, where this is much more surgical and almost and majestic in a sort of way. And now that it's happened, when you watch other action sequences in other movies, do you find yourself going, that's not how John Wick would do it? Or does it not register into your brain? Like, what do you think?
Who are you asking?
Anyone. I'll stick with you.
Yeah, go ahead, Ann.
Yeah, well, I like watching. I mean, because I've had the discussion about when you watch things, people have the gun out here, they're doing stuff like, and I like the fact that it's much more up close and personal that way. It ends up being a little, well, within the John Wick universe, and is indestructible relatively as he seems to be. It's much more. It makes much more sense to me, if sense can be applied to this. I like that more.
I don't know if sense makes it right.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean, though. It's like, you watch a lot of these other things, have the guy, they're holding the gun out this way, or do the, that stupid sideways crap. And it's like, you watch so many, and if you've ever fired a gun, there is a recoil.
Right.
When you're doing it for real. So, it would make sense to me, hold it in close, and you've got less chance of, all the movement, which I like a lot better. So for me, it works.
All right. So this whole 4-movie saga started with a punk kid messing with the wrong guy's car and dog. But is this franchise really just a long revenge tale? Or is it about something more? Brian, what do you think?
Oh, I definitely believe it's something more. It certainly starts off as a revenge tale, but it's the one thing that I keep thinking about, and I don't remember if you mentioned it anywhere, but the mythology of it, even from the first movie.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just even from the first movie, you can tell there was something more, there was something deeper. Revenge was just only one aspect of it. So I think it is just way much more than just an extended revenge saga.
So what about you, Anna? What do you think's really kind of underneath all this?
Well, I mean, he's mourning his wife ultimately. I mean, even the first movie, The Revenge Tale, this was something that his wife had given him, this dog, because she wanted him to have somebody who he could take care of and love and stuff like that. So I mean, and ultimately, as the whole series progresses, I mean, a lot of this has to do with his wife, and it's definitely, as we see in the fourth movie. There's a whole lot there. I mean, he's got so much going on in his head, and he just wants to rest. He doesn't want to have to do this stuff anymore.
What about you,
So,
Dave?
no.
Yeah. What do you think? Is it, I mean, certainly, he's driven by, the connection with the dog is really kind of connection to his wife, but considering the amount of carnage that is unleashed, is it more than that? Or do you think that's just kind of what it is?
I think it's a couple of things. The 4 movies are a perfect illustration of how it started versus how it's going.
Right.
And also fuck around and find out, pardon my language. But to further Anna's point, the through line, and particularly emphasized in the latest movie, is his desire to be at peace and away from this life, and in some way be able to mourn his wife. And that's a pickup thread that, from the third movie, where he basically surrendered that for a time so that he could get his way back in long enough to finish business in the third movie. But yeah, ultimately the whole thing is just, I wanted out of this life. You took that from me. And then you took the one thing that let me have a little bit of that life or that peace, and I'm pissed off. And then of course the dominoes just start falling after that.
Right.
Don't mess with this guy's dog is the ultimate moral of this story.
For sure. Right. Okay.
I mean, to piggyback off of Dayton there, I
Please.
think one of the first things that triggers the revenge is grief processing. He just wants to process the loss of his wife, not only just because he wanted out of the lifestyle to spend time with her, and then now that she's gone, his whole world is turned upside down. He just has zero idea how to process this, and of course that's the whole symbolism of the dog.
All right. So we got glimpses of it in the first movie, and as we talked about it, and it expanded greatly as the series went on. So let's talk about the Continental, the high table, and what the world building really meant for the franchise. So Dayton, you're a guy who's spent a lot of time, obviously, in the Star Trek universe where the world building is critical. So what do you think about what we started out with that sort of, the layers behind it, and how did it impact you? How important or not was those layers of world building for you to draw you in?
I think in the first movie in particular, when we're introduced to this world, I love the way the screenwriters took it on faith that they could provide just enough information to tease us and think highly enough of us to be able to follow along with them as they laid these little breadcrumbs out. They didn't spend a lot of time laying out all the mysteries and the protocols and the customs and the rituals and whatnot. They gave us just enough of a tease, and then it was basically just a pause between action beats at one, just a little bit. But I mean, just his interactions with Winston in the Circle Club or in the lounge, and then the coins and the jargon they use to indicate what they need to have done. I need to make a dinner reservation, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Catch and release. You want to
Right. I need housekeeping.
you can infer what
Mhm.
they mean without having to have it knocked over the head about it. And I love that. And then of course every film adds a little bit more to that world. We want to learn about the, you know, the rituals and what's required of these people and who they serve and who they answer to and what's at the end of the line for them. But again, all through all 4 movies, we get just enough more to keep us intrigued without feeling like we're getting just, you know, inundated with the lore. It's
Yeah, you know,
all in
and that's
service to pushing the movie forward.
right. And that's an interesting point. And I want to ask the follow-up, Anna. So Dayton just said, you know, sometimes you could go the other way, right? You could overwhelm the audience with world building with so much detail that it almost you care more about that than what's going on with our heroes. How did you feel about the balance of, you know, look, these movies are, once the action starts, it's just relentless and they take a breath every half hour to let everybody kind of catch up, but they thread in, you know, various levels of, you know, the Continental, what the coins mean. You can't do business on Continental grounds. They have rules, right? And for them, the rules are unbreakable and they have very real consequences. Do you think they got the balance right? Did you want more? Was it just right? And what about it did you feel kind of, you know, did it or how did it, you know, elevate this movie from being just kind of a typical, like this could have been like a Charles Bronson Death Wish, right? It's basically like Death Wish with more world building, right? He's just out to kick ass. What does that do to this series that kind of maybe that we don't necessarily get in a lot of other kind of action movies or action franchises?
The thing that I really like about the series is that there is that world building. It isn't just, you know, something happens at the beginning and then it just kind of, you know, rampages through. We actually get an idea of this world and how it works. And so getting this stuff with the Continental and Winston and Sharon, which that whole situation breaks my heart. But
I'm gonna get to that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just the way they did it. I think it was really good. They didn't give us too much information or too little information. I don't think I've seen anybody say, I didn't need to know about this stuff when they're talking about the movie. Other people seem to feel the same way, that they've done a really good job of creating that world and not beating us over the head with things. And I like that. And it works for me. I can't speak for other people, but it works really well for me. And if somehow there's a John Wick 5, you bet your ass will be there to see it too.
So Brian, I want to follow up on what Anna said. So the character of Winston, played by the always great Ian McShane, was a mysterious figure. He never rattled. He always seemed to know more than everybody else, and he understood his place in this world and wasn't given anything up, and certainly not without a fight. He was at times a friend to John Wick, an ally, an enemy, and a co-conspirator. So talk to me about Winston, like what, you know, to me, he was in a weird, and I don't know if it's 100% this, I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think that he was sort of the glue that kind of held that world together? Or was he just sort of, you know, the mysterious figure who just, was he more functional or was there something more there going on? What do you think, Brian?
Oh, I definitely think there was something more there going on. To continue a little bit about the world building, the one thing I appreciated about the movies is the fact that we're all writers here. We all know you show, you don't tell. And that's one thing that all 4 movies did exceptionally well, was they showed us this world. They put us into it. In fact, the only exposition I can really think about is the first movie where Vigo actually explained what the impossible deed was and why John is in the position currently it's in. But in this world, I think there are certainly pillars there. And I think obviously the Continentals around the world are those pillars. And obviously every manager at each Continental has their own story, has their own life, their own journey, their own mythical journey and adventures. So we're seeing Winston towards the end of his So there's a lot going on there, and I'm sure that they're going to explore this with the prequels
with the show, right? So you said something interesting, and I want to follow up on that, Dayton. So to me, it felt like that Winston was almost a mythical figure, right? He just seemed to be not quite like the rest of us. What was your take on Winston and kind of what the character itself and his presence brought to the infrastructure and integrity of the John Wick universe?
I think in the first movie, you get the idea that he is in some kind of leadership capacity or higher authority capacity. But we don't know yet until the next movie that there is more than one Continental and this is a global thing. So in that regard, yeah, he seemed to be like a high honcho kind of guy. And then with every new movie, we figure out, we start to see where he is in the hierarchy. When they send in the adjudicator in chapter 3, and then they send in and so we start to see that he's not really, he's higher than the assassins are, but he's definitely below the high table, and he's definitely not that high, and he still has people to answer to, which is interesting in and of itself, because obviously he has his own agenda. He wants to be in charge of the Continental. He wants to be able to run it as he sees fit, but there are still rules in play that he has to follow.
Right.
And I think that's the part that's interesting, is everybody has a role to play, everybody has rules to follow, and everybody has people they answer to, and every film gives us more insight into who's at the top of that pyramid.
Right. And that's something that I really, and I'm actually just realizing it now, and Dayton, you said it just right. And Anna, maybe we can follow up here, is the fact that, when you meet Winston, initially we think, oh, like it's his world and we're just living in it. But then we realize, no, he's living in that world too. And I think, and Anna, let me ask you this. Let's just say, for example, that Winston was the top of the pyramid. Like in essence, he was the high table. He made the rules. Do you think it would have worked as well if he was like the buck stopped with him? Or does it play better with the fact that while he's, the master of his domain, he's playing within a much bigger pool and he has to constantly negotiate his own movements? What do you think?
I like it. I like it better that he's part of, the lower people. I mean, the whole high table thing is it's that the invisible people who lord it all over the rest of us kind of a feeling. And he's part of that group of people. He's just trying to survive. And the Continental is his place where he rules. That's his place to be, and that kind of a thing. And it's nice to have him on that point. I mean, Ian McShane, as it is, usually plays characters who tend to be, up above the rest of us kind of stuff. And so in a way, it's like seeing him sort of on our level too, if that makes sense. And I like that a lot.
And I think it's great, especially if you've watched Deadwood in particular, where you see like Al Swearingen, which is, he was in it, right? He was sweaty and dirty and foul mouthed, right? And scooping peaches. He would do, almost, without morals, almost. Just really, he was fighting for the town, but, he was a dirty guy doing a dirty business. Now, here, in a way, he's not so entirely, he's a much more polished version. I don't think but yet I don't know that he was really any less ruthless ultimately, right? He had his little fiefdom, and this is my world. This little piece is mine, and you're gonna have to peel it out of my cold dead hands. All right, so of course it would be impossible to talk about the John Wick movies without mentioning the great Lance Reddick, who played Charon and sadly passed away before the John Wick 4 premiere. He didn't have the largest role, but Lance just always has a certain presence no matter where he shows up. What do you think, just real quickly, Anna, what do you think that he brought to the John Wick universe that maybe anyone else theoretically could have played that role, but what is it about Lance Reddick? What did he bring to it that sort of added a little something?
There's just something about him. The first place I ever saw him was the show Oz, where he played an undercover cop in the prison who did not end well. And he always played those really well. Yeah, he was very good at playing very uptight types. So if you ever saw any of the outtakes of his stuff, he actually was fairly relaxed. So that you never saw it on screen when he was performing. But there was something about the character. He did loyalty really well. He did a really good job of, you know, being the person who was very efficient at his job, and you knew why Winston had him there. You knew why Winston valued him as much as he did. Now it's interesting the name Sharon, because Sharon is also the name of the character who ferries the dead, you know, in the afterlife. So it's kind of interesting.
I didn't make that connection at all. Oh wow. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Just
it was interesting.
Quick interlude for the folks who came in a little late. If you have any questions or comments for the panel, send them in the chat box, and we'll get to a few at the end. All right, so over the course of the franchise, we learned that John Wick was actually Russian, raised as a child to be an assassin and a killer for the high table. And once you're in, there's almost no getting out. And he did. And then he came back. How do you think that element of the world building, did it enhance or possibly hinder the stories that they can tell within that world? Dayton, what do you think?
I got to be honest, I'm always been a little fuzzy on that point. I couldn't figure out if he was Russian by birth or he was orphaned and taken in by that family.
Right.
I guess it could work either way. I don't necessarily think it hampers storytelling possibilities. It's just it's an interesting angle to take as far as his heritage. Like, will John Wick 5 tell us, you know, where his family, what they did back in the old days? What do we don't. I don't know. I don't know that it hurts it at all.
All right, so let me just real quick. I want to get back to the physicality of the series, and Brian, since you mentioned it earlier, I'm going to start with you and I even remember, and Dayton, you may recall this. I was after John. I don't remember which one. I'm mixing them up. It was the one where towards the very end of the movie, or maybe it was 2 or 3, where he falls off the building and he slams into the railing, and then he crushes onto the street. Right. So every character who goes into battle, John especially, doesn't just take a beating, but a series of beating that, let's be real, no human being could possibly endure. I mean, one of them, much less all of them. Do you take that as just a suspension of disbelief and you go for the ride and you go, all right, whatever? Or at any point do you say to yourself, you know, come on, guys, you know, you're asking just a little too much of me. Brian, what do you think?
I'm okay with it. Like I said, there are plenty of other movies out there where the hero gets you completely ignore the laws of biology. In fact, just on Monday, I saw that new movie Sisu. The main character, it's called Sisu, Sisu. It's I think it's a Finnish film, but it's glorious movie. You got to see it. It's
okay.
a lot of Nazis are getting blown up. It's beautiful.
Okay.
But the laws of physics and the laws of biology just do not apply to this movie whatsoever. And it was still fun. It was such a great time. So like we had mentioned earlier, John Wick, even though he does fall from a very tall building and he hits literally everything on the way down, and he still lives to tell about it, it's still I'm invested. I'm into it. I'm in this world. They brought me into it. I'm a denizen of this world.
Yeah.
I'm going to live in it and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to believe it. I'm going to hit the I believe button and off we go.
I love it. I hit the I believe button. I mean, for one point I was counting how many times John Wick actually was hit by a car. Right. I at a certain point I just stopped counting. Like, you know, to us mere mortals, you get hit by a car once. It's kind of pretty much it. Anna, what do you think? Was it just, you know what? Who cares? It's just this is just who he is. It doesn't matter. Or at any point did you say, you know,
for me, it worked. I mean, and if you've seen the movie Nobody, which is in the same universe.
Yes, I did.
I mean, I adore that movie. I've watched it more than once and I will continue to rewatch it. I mean, yeah, and I hear they're making another one and I'll be there. But yeah, but I mean, there seems to be something in that universe where the laws of physics don't apply. I mean, when, you know, like in Nobody, when you watch Odenkirk's character get the crap beat out of him in the bus and he still kicks ass.
Oh, so good.
You know? It was. Yeah, I know. And and that was even better. This was some poor guy. He's managed to have a family and stuff. He just wants to protect him, and it was fun. But anyway, but no, for John Wick, it worked. I mean, I looked at it and I figure it's a world full of, if you can't really call them superheroes, there's something about them because it's obviously not our universe.
Right. Okay.
It's that whole multiverse idea,
All right, so I got a question I want to hear from all you guys. So John Wick faced off against several badass foes throughout the course of the series. Personally, my two favorites were Common, who played Cassian in John Wick 2, and then Donnie Yen, who played Kane in John Wick 4. What do you guys think? So Dayton, what if you had to pick a favorite or a favorite or two of his foils across the 4 movies, who kind of stuck out for you?
Oh, it's Donnie Yen all the way. It's not even close.
Right.
I agree. Donnie Yen was great.
And I thought it was interesting, we've seen from time to time, that kind of trope where, I mean, even like look at Daredevil, right? I mean, he's blind but he has powers, but this was, to me, was really interesting where he was so in control. This is a guy who was not lacking confidence in what he was able to do. Right. And he had like this almost like a genteel kind of almost like a sense of humor about it, because it's almost like he knew how good he was. He just knew it. Mm-hmm. And he kind of knew if you're coming up against me, this is only going to end one way and it ain't going to be good for you. What about you, Brian? Did you have a favorite or a favorite or two across the franchise?
I can't disagree with the Donnie Yen. But I also got a kick out of when he fought Ruby Rose in number 2. Just the fact that Ruby is so tiny, but yet Ruby was able to hold her own against him. It was engaging. There was no dialogue between them. It was still entertaining, something a little different, something unique. So I certainly appreciated that.
All right. How about Anna? How about you?
Like I said, Donnie Yen was perfect. It was great. Though, of course, I harken back to Zatoichi, which has always been a favorite of mine, the blind samurai. So that's kind of what I was reminded of when I was watching that a lot, though, in a more modern context. He's fun to watch. I thought it was great. He did have that kind of, oh boy, kind of feeling things, which I enjoyed.
So let me ask you about one thing I want to ask you guys about this. So the cinematography, not separate from the choreography, just the visual aspect of these movies, I mean, to me was absolutely just stunning. These movies looked gorgeous. And even though a lot of the scenes were shot at night, and shooting in the dark is not easy because lighting is very, very tricky, everything looked slick and clean. You could see everything. Did you find that, some movies, some TV shows can be slick on the surface, but they got nothing underneath? But this kind of had both. Dayton, what for you? Did you, certain, we went through a long stretch where like grainy and gritty was kind of like the new thing for about 10 years, but this kind of went the other way. What was your reaction to kind of just the visual aspect of it, aside from the physicality?
I think, the first movie, it seems like it's raining all the time.
Right.
The first half of the movie, it's always raining. I guess
it's very wet. Right.
It's Jersey, right?
Yeah.
But it plays into the theme. It's a very, he's been dragged back into this life. He doesn't want to be here, and it's all down, in his brain, it's all downhill from here. And then, they change up the palette a little bit in chapter 2 when he goes into the catacombs and, and does all that kind of thing. And then of course, 3, we're in the desert. I love the fact that they find a way to give each film its own visual identity, but yes, you can tell without an effort that it's all part, it's all linked.
So I wanted to ask you actually about that very specifically about in the desert, because the whole notion that the head of the high table, is almost like a Lawrence of Arabia character, like with power in the middle of nowhere, where most of the scenes are taking place, in the city space, and these, it's very urban, and yet the center of it was way off on the other side of the world. Did you find that it added a level of kind of, mysticism to it that kind of elevates the franchise out of just the standard, shoot 'em up? Or did it feel maybe slightly out of character? What did you think? Brian, what about you?
Loved it. It added to it. It added layers. We were just talking about settings throughout the franchise. Setting became very important. It kind of reminded me of like James Bond movies. With James Bond, setting is a very important element to those movies because they're usually exotic locales that the common people like us never see. Now, with John Wick, he certainly does go to exotic locales, but he also goes to places, obviously like the Continental, or he keeps in New York City. He's in places that will average people can touch, but we certainly, the John Wick franchise is certainly showing them in a much different light, elevating it.
Okay.
So when he is in the desert, when there are characters who specifically live in the desert, like an evil Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think it added something to the franchise.
All right. So guys, we've talked John Wick now. This is in terms strictly of your level of enjoyment, because I don't really want to get into, better, best, worst. How do you rank the 4 movies just in terms of your level of enjoyment? Dayton, we'll start with you.
And you're going to make me pick among my children. Okay.
Yes, I am. That's what we do on this show.
It's hard to stick these things in silos because every single one of them just to me built on the previous installment. And so my favorite is probably the first because it was the most straightforward introduction to the world, but I have enjoyed every one of them with increasing intensity as we get on with it. I mean, I figure, a lot of series by this point, they're starting to peter out. Maybe they get one good sequel and the rest of them are just, obviously we're on life support.
Okay, I hear you, but I'm not letting you square them out. You got to rank them just in terms of enjoyment.
How am I going to rank them in terms of enjoyment? Okay, I'll go 1, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, Anna.
I'd have to agree with him. As they are all really good movies and they build really well on each other. And because we all know most times sequels aren't anywhere near as good. This series has managed to grow with each film, and it's an amazing thing. I love that uniqueness. But yeah, this latest one was fantastic. The first one definitely was a great way to introduce the character and give you an idea what was going on. So yeah, very much so. 1, 4,
3, 2. That's you. All right, Brian, what do you got?
Come on, Ross. You know the answer. It's 1, 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, I got, you know what? I got to say, I'm a 1, 4, 3, 2 as well. All right, that was great. But now it's time for a special section of the show where we spin the wheel. On the wheel are 7 possible categories, which I created specially for this panel. Wherever it lands is what you get. And the categories are Dog Day Afternoon, Better Call Saul, Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Revenge, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, The Geico Effect, Don't Look in the Basement, and Pigeon Patrol. All right, Brian, you're a newbie on the show, so you go first. You ready?
All right.
You're going. So here we go. What do we got?
Going. All right.
All right. And you got Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. All right. For you, what do we got? Okay. You are magically inserted into the John Wick universe. It's a dangerous world and not for the faint of heart. You can be a Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, or Spy. In the world of John Wick, what role do you choose?
Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy. God, now you're making me think. It's too late at night to think. Come on, man. I'm just gonna go with Soldier. I'm not a small mammal. Soldier doesn't have to think too much. I'm just gonna plow forward. Just whatever's in front of me. I'm just gonna run it down.
All right, fair enough. Okay, Anna, you're up next. You ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, what do we got for you? All right, and you got Pigeon Patrol. All right. Oh. What kind of nonsense did I come up with now? All right, so Lawrence Fishburne's Bowery King used pigeons as a secret messenger service, but decided that being in the assassin business just wasn't worth the hassle anymore and decided to start a new career, putting his Pigeon Patrol to good use. What's his new career?
Oh, God. He opened a restaurant specializing in squab.
Okay, well, remind me not to eat there. All right, fair enough. All right, Dayton, you're up. All right, what do we got here? You got, okay. Oh, Don't Look in the Basement. All right, so what do we got here? Okay, good old John Wick did some basement demolition to retrieve the archives from his former life. But the fact that he kept them implies maybe that he wasn't 100% out of his own life, just in case. Do you think he was really out? Or do you think that he knew deep down every time he thinks he's out, they're going to pull him back in?
I think he knew that there was going to be some kind of situation that he might get called back, or an old enemy would come calling, or something to that effect. Now, why you bury all that in concrete, I don't know, but maybe that was his way of trying to keep it at bay a little longer.
All right, fair
Deny
enough.
the inevitable. I don't know.
I don't know. All right, that was great, guys. But now it's time where we're going to pick your poison. I've got 4 choices for you, and I'm not going to tell you what's behind each one. We got A, B, C, or D. All right, Dayton, I'm going to start with you. Just pick one.
D.
D. All right, so D is success or bust. Okay, writers often talk about, think about, and are asked about what it means to be successful. But every writer has their own definition of success, which may change at various stages in their careers. Given where you are today in your career, your writing career, what is your definition of success? And how does that definition compare, if at all, to when you first started writing seriously?
My definition today is I can write regularly enough and get paid regularly enough that it could be my full-time job. That was fairly in line with what I kind of hoped for starting out, was I would be able to quit my full-time job as an IT guy and do this full-time. Took a while, but I've managed to do it. That's my definition of success.
All right, fair enough. All right, Anna, you're up next. So that gives you, you got A, B, or C?
A.
A. All right, so here's a new one. I'm calling this convention retention. Much like life itself, conventions are finally back in full swing, but the way we interact with each other and fans has gone through a bit of a cultural sea change over the last several years, with a mixture of excitement, inclusion, and sadly, some cancel culture. Some cons seem to run smoothly and others not so much, with some cons tolerating some fairly bad behavior and others overreacting or too quickly to react harshly when there's even a hint of dissatisfaction without actually taking the time to understand what actually happened and if the situation was perhaps blown out of proportion. If you could make one suggestion to con runners and fandom who attends about how we can have a more pleasant, respectful, and fun experience overall, what would it be?
If there's a question of behavior situations, and I'm thinking of one in particular, it's actually better to actually investigate rather than to just barge in and make assumptions. You have to find out what's going on both sides. You can't, you know, if you're thinking of the one I'm thinking of, it was handled very badly, and because people didn't actually, you know, look into what was going on. You know, you can't make assumptions.
Yeah, a lot of
well, it's like there's always 2 sides to a story.
Oh.
And you have to, you know, and the truth is somewhere in between, but you have to listen to both sides before you make a determination.
Yeah, there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions going out there, and I would agree. Let's just, if everyone could just, like, I know it's been a rough world out there, but let's try to take a deep breath. We don't have to agree on everything. We can agree to disagree, but let's maybe, if we could dial down just a notch or 2. So for any of the con runners who are watching, I love you guys. I'm a con warrior myself, want to have a great time, but maybe we could just dial it down just a notch would be a good thing. All right, Brian, B or C?
Well, since we did D for Dayton, A for Anna, obviously I'm going to go for C for Brian.
All right, of course, as you do. All right, that's a good thing because I'm going to give you some truth serum. I'm going to ask you 10 questions. You ready?
10.
All right, favorite flavor ice cream?
Come on, man.
I'll stop whining. Favorite flavor ice cream?
Pistachio.
Oh, what's one food you will never eat ever for any reason?
Oh, God, liver.
I'm with you. Bucket list destination anywhere in the world?
Ooh, Narnia.
Okay, in this world?
Oh, come on. Jeez, so many rules. Let's go with Australia.
All right. Scariest movie you ever saw?
Poltergeist when I was like 9 or 10.
Oh God, so horrifying.
Yeah.
You could have one superpower. I mean, that tree tapping on the window. Oh, yeah.
Amen.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Telekinesis, and I would go right to Vegas and make that little ball land and every spot I want to. They would love me.
I absolutely love it. Right on. All right, take me with you. All right. Do you play any musical instruments? And if not, which one if you could?
I absolutely do not, but I do love drums.
All right. Drummer myself. Right on. All right. Cats or dogs?
Both.
Right on. Same here. Favorite cocktail?
Beer.
Right on. And we're going to have one next time I see it.
Hell yeah.
Or many. You can see a live performance, sports, music, theater, whatever. Any seat, any venue, any time in history. What's your choice?
Oh man. That's way too much. You know what? I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go really obscure and say something like I'd love to see Copernicus talk.
Oh, all right. Right on. Wow. No one's come. That's a new one. Good on you. All right. Last one. If you could bring back one TV show you feel was canceled too soon to continue its run, what would it be?
Ooh, man. I'm going to say, oh crap, I forgot the name of it already. I loved it so much, I can't remember the name. I can't remember the one I'm really thinking of, but I'm going to go with Brand New Cherry Flavor. That show was just bonkers, absolutely bonkers. Even though it had a satisfying ending, I still wanted more.
I've never heard of it. What is it?
It's a very, very interesting show about a female writer who goes out to Hollywood and has basically her ideas stolen from her from a shiesty producer, and she gets revenge in a very interesting way.
All right, fair enough. All right, so we're going to have a couple of minutes. We're going to take some questions from the audience. If we have any, let me scroll through the chat box real quick. All right, I'm not seeing too many questions here. Let's see, what didn't we get to? Oh, you know what? There was one question I did want to ask that we did not get a chance to dive into too much, which is one last question for you guys is, all right, so we didn't really talk about the coins. And I thought it was interesting that, you know, that within that world, you know, that the coin, you know, the sense of currency, it was more than just currency. There was a deeper implication to it. So Dayton, what did you take from the coin aspect of the show that, you know, it was sort of the key to that, to being in that world?
Well, I mean, the first movie gave us the idea that, you know, one coin was equivalent to a transaction of some kind. And didn't matter what the transaction was, in that world, that coin was your purchase price. It was as much as it was less currency than it was just an acknowledgement of the transaction between two parties. That's my take on it. The only time that seemed to not quite hold up was when he does the shootout at his house and he makes the dinner reservation for 12 and he's got 12 coins stacked up, you know.
Right.
So that's the only time that's the only part where that idea seems to falter. But throughout the rest of the movies, whenever a coin is exchanged, it doesn't matter what is being asked of the individual taking the coin. You know, it goes everything from just being able to open a door to killing somebody.
That's right.
And so, okay, it's like, all right, within that world, that's the rule. You know, you earn a coin for doing a deed.
Right, so
he
Anna,
does everything, but
right.
you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. So, and anything else? Did the coin mean to you? Did it come across as just sort of, you know, an active a method of currency, or was there something else to it?
For me, it's interesting. I mean, it definitely had it definitely had a depth of meaning behind it. When you gave somebody a coin, it was something serious. So it had weight to it more than just a physical coin. It had meaning, and it had meaning behind it.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I don't know if you guys felt this way, but the fact that you using the coin was one thing, but having the coin was sort of another thing. It's sort of, to me, was sort of, Joe Schmo off the street just can't, you can't go buy something for, $20 and then swap it out for a coin. To actually possess those coins was sort of, to me, it signified that you are in this world. You're not part of the, you're not a civilian, not like non-civilian. A civilian would never have that coin because there'd be no reason that they would even know about it and no reason to use it. And it was sort of an acknowledgement that, you're in this sort of exclusive world. All right, that's all we have time for now, because I got to share my screen. So just bear with me, guys, and we got some good stuff for you guys to check out. So hang on 1 second. Okie doke. So, Dayton, what are we looking at here?
That is the cover to my latest novel that'll be out on May 30th. Obviously, it's a Star Trek novel. It's based on Discovery, and it's set during that period after they've been, for those who watch Discovery, I guess. It's set between the 3rd and 4th seasons of the show. So after they had been flung to the far future 900 years hence from where they started. It's sort of a classic Star Trek tale with the, alien planet scenario of the week, kind of. But it's also a very character-driven piece, in my opinion, because if you watch the show, you know that they got thrown into that 900 years in the future bit. And the show moved so fast in that 3rd season, you didn't really get to watch the characters acclimate to their new reality.
Right.
They got thrown into the problem. And then by the time season 4 comes around, everybody's hunky-dory and we were all good to go for the next problem. I'm like, well, what happened? Where's all the good, juicy character bits, Did I regret this decision? Am I homesick? Do I want, there's all kinds of questions that got left on the table that I just decided was good fodder for a book.
All right, so you're filling in some gaps between 3
Filling in
and 4.
some character gaps, yeah.
Nice. All right, great. Awesome. And it's going to be out when?
May 30th.
May 30th. All right, guys, if you're a Star Trek fan, in particular, if you like reading Star Trek books and you want a book from one of the best Star Trek authors probably ever, check this one out from Dayton. All right, so what else we got
pressure.
here?
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You got it,
No
buddy.
pressure.
Hey, buddy, don't come on the roller coaster if you can't handle it, baby. Strap in. All right, Anna, what do we got?
Well, this is my novel, Lucy Roads to Hell. I'm currently working on the sequel, Lucy Roads to Recovery. It's a story about preconceptions and friendship and loss and grief and growth and healing. You've got a human man. He's a professor at one of the universities in Los Angeles. And he finds out about this person named Lucien Ferry, and he figures out something about her. And so he's got enough issues going on in his life. He approaches her with a lot of preconceptions. She is, you can probably guess, just look at her. She is the devil. It is not a romance. I don't do romances. She already has a girlfriend, so that's fine. Let you know that up front. Yeah, but it's been a lot of fun to write. People have really attached themselves to the characters, and I like that, and getting feedback. And so I'm hoping, God's willing, that the next one will be out by the end of the year. I'm sure you, as other writers, you know how well, the best laid plans and all that work out. But it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to getting more out.
All right.
And I look forward to, if people want to ask me about the characters and things, I'm more than happy to talk about it. I'm on Facebook. I'm right out there, and you can ask me anything, and I'm always happy to, be there.
Sounds good.
And-
All right, Brian, what do we got here?
Yes, sir.
So
That is our action horror novel, Hammer and Blood.
So
The
this
quick
is
pitch that-
family friendly, right?
Oh my God, totally. Yeah, absolutely. The quick pitch that we always give to people when they come up to the table asking about it, we say, just imagine if John Wick fought Jason Voorhees. So we have the assassin character. He's getting to an age where he's thinking about retiring. He might have another job or two left. And then, of course, we have the mask-wearing, unstoppable killing machine. Worlds collide, and of course, you've got to have a lake house filled with a couple with some 20-somethings
All right.
for our mask-wearing character to harass.
Right. So this is all PG, right?
Oh, it's totally. If PG means pretty gory.
That's
yeah.
right. Right on. All right. Is it out now?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Right on. Check it out, guys. I can tell you, I know Brian pretty well, and he's got a wicked sense of humor. Trust me, you'll have fun. That's all I'll say. All right. As for me, if you're up for a little sci-fi with your twisty action hero, since we had the theme tonight, I'll encourage you to check out my sci-fi Private Eye series featuring Angela Hardwick, part Blade Runner, part Doctor Who, part Atomic Blonde. The first 3 books in the series are Crackle and Fire, Fractured Lives, and the latest one is Hot Ash. They're all standalone mysteries that can be read in any order, but there is some character development throughout, so your mileage may vary depending on whether you like being in on the action from the beginning or jump in from whichever plot line leaps out at you most. And also, and I thought this was pretty darn cool, I have to say, I know I've mentioned it before, but just recently, SIFWA, that's the Science Fiction and Writers Association, sent out a tweet, which I only learned about afterwards, and this is what they said. In regards to fantastic noir, Dirk Gently did it so well, and Angela Hardwick currently does too. Well, if SIFWA wants to put my Hardwick series side by side with Douglas Adams, one of the most iconic sci-fi authors of all time, who am I to disagree? All right, the Hardwick novels are available on Amazon and published by Crazy 8 Press, and the 4th book in the series, which I'll be announcing soon, will be available in September. All 3 novels are ready to go, and book 4 will be out soon. Okay, guys, that's our show. I want to thank Dayton and Anna and Brian for coming along, and for everyone who's watching at home. I'm your host, Russ Colchamiro. As always, please be generous, be gentle, be kind, and I'll see you all next week. All right, guys, take care. Bye now.